Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to break down one of the absolute best value yet most wildly misunderstood financial products out there, renter's insurance. So, picture this. You finally sign a lease on a great new place, you grab your keys, start moving your boxes in, and you completely ignore that little pamphlet your landlord handed you about insurance. Well, whether you're leasing your very first apartment or you've been renting for a decade, there's a really good chance you're either paying for coverage you don't fully understand or you're walking around completely exposed to financial risks you didn't even know existed. Today, we are going to fix that.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with number 1, the misunderstanding. Then we'll move into number 2, what your policy actually covers. Establish number 3, what is left uncovered. Explore number 4, protection beyond your apartment, and finally wrap up with number 5, real-world claim examples. So, section 1, the misunderstanding, expectations versus reality. We're kicking things off by looking at a major disconnect renters have regarding their protection. It's a disconnect that can actually end up costing people thousands of dollars when an emergency finally strikes.
The Knight Family Agency, who actually handles these claims day in and day out, hit the nail on the head with this dangerous paradox. They point out that renter's insurance covers more than most people think and less than some assume. People either dangerously overestimate their coverage, basically walking around thinking they're invincible to any disaster, or they completely miss out on the policy's hidden superpowers, paying out of pocket for things that totally should have been covered. Our goal today is to align your expectations with reality so you are never caught off guard.
Moving right along to Section 2, what your policy actually covers, or as I like to call it, the in-group. Let's see how this builds our first layer of security by defining exactly what is protected inside your walls. We're talking about the definite, undisputed inclusions of your policy.
Let's talk about Coverage C, which protects your personal property. The absolute best way to think about this is with a little visualization. If you were to somehow pick up your entire apartment building, flip it upside down, and just shake it, literally everything that falls out, that is your personal property. It means everything you own and would pack up in boxes to take with you if you moved. We're talking about your entire wardrobe, your expensive gaming computer, your vintage couch, your kitchen appliances, the whole shebang.
But what exactly are all those belongings protected against? Well, you've got your major, terrifying catastrophes like a kitchen fire and the resulting smoke damage, but it also covers some incredibly bizarre, unpredictable events. Like if the sheer weight of winter ice and snow collapses a section of the roof right onto your living room furniture, you're protected. Or if a sudden, accidental burst pipe completely ruins your laptop while you're asleep, you're covered. It protects you from massive structural failures all the way down to violating personal events like theft and burglary.
Now here is where renter's insurance becomes a real game changer. Beyond just protecting your physical stuff, this policy actually covers your actions. This is your personal liability. Meaning, if you invite a friend over and they slip on a wet spot in your kitchen, or if your dog gets loose and takes a chunk out of the mailman, your policy acts as a legal and financial shield. It can even cover massive legal defense costs if someone sues you, even if that lawsuit turns out to be entirely frivolous. It also includes small medical payments, usually between $1,000 and $5,000, for guests injured in your apartment, completely regardless of who was at fault.
And then we have Coverage D, which is loss of use or additional living expenses. Take a second and just imagine a fire sweeps through your apartment building. Everyone is safe, thankfully, but standing on the sidewalk, smelling the smoke, you realize you literally cannot live in your apartment for the next 2 months while they repair it. The emotional stress is already huge, but what do you do? Where do you go? This coverage steps in to pay for the gap in your living expenses, ensuring you aren't financially stranded or desperately scrambling for a place to sleep.
This brilliantly illustrates just how deep that protection really goes. It isn't just handing you a check for a cheap motel. It's fundamentally designed to maintain your standard of living. Because insurance isn't just about bare-bones survival, it's about making sure your life isn't entirely derailed. It covers the hotel costs for sure, but it also covers restaurant meals beyond what you'd normally spend on groceries since, you suddenly don't have a kitchen. Need to put your salvaged stuff in a storage unit? Covered. Need emergency pet boarding while you bounce between temporary housing? Covered. Even the extra cost of sending out your laundry is factored in. It all sounds pretty amazing, right? But just as you start feeling completely invincible, we have to ask the critical question. Where does the coverage actually end? Where does the insurance company draw the line? Knowing these limits is exactly what separates a savvy, prepared renter from an angry one whose claim just got denied.
That brings us to Section 3, what is left uncovered, the hard boundaries. Now we pivot to the exclusions, because knowing what is completely out of bounds is just as important as knowing what is covered.
This prevents that devastating moment of filing a claim in a total panic only to hear the word denied. We've got a stark contrast here that shows the ultimate boundary. You cannot and honestly should not insure the physical building. A really good rule of thumb, if it's bolted down, it's the landlord's problem. If you plug it in, it's yours. The physical walls, the hardwood floors, the plumbing fixtures, and the refrigerator that came with the unit entirely belong to the landlord, and that falls firmly under their own insurance policy. Your responsibility stops at the paint on the walls. It's strictly limited to everything inside the apartment that you personally brought in with you.
Here's a boundary that catches so many people off guard. Water damage is tricky. While we saw earlier that a burst pipe inside the walls is covered, a flood is absolutely not. If a nearby river overflows, or if heavy rain causes surface runoff to flood right into your ground floor apartment, your standard policy will not pay out a single dime. Earthquakes are also strictly excluded. Both floods and earthquakes are practically their own insurance category entirely. So, if you live in an area prone to these specific natural disasters, you've got to actively seek out separate, dedicated policies.
And what about the person living across the hall from you? Never, ever assume your policy covers your roommate. Insurance is tied to the individual who signed the policy, not the shared address. Unless your roommate is legally and explicitly named as an insured person on your document, their stolen vintage gaming console is entirely their own problem to replace.
We also need to talk about your pets and just general wear and tear. Now, while your liability coverage will definitely step in if your dog bites a neighbor, it absolutely does not cover your dog chewing up your own expensive couch. It also won't cover routine vet bills. Similarly, gradual damage is a hard no. Insurance is a safety net for sudden, unpredictable emergencies. It's not a maintenance fund for a leaky toilet you knowingly ignored for 6 months that slowly caused a ton of mold damage.
Okay, Section 4, Protection Beyond Your Apartment. Let's step outside your physical rental now to reveal one of the most surprising, hidden perks of this insurance. Honestly, this is the part that makes this coverage such an incredible value.
This is wild. Your personal property coverage actually travels the globe with you. Yes, it covers things inside your apartment, but if your laptop is stolen out of your car while you're parked at the grocery store, it's covered. If your luggage is swiped from a hotel room while you're traveling internationally on vacation, that is actually a covered renter's insurance claim. Your protection extends essentially anywhere in the world, giving you this massive umbrella of security, though, some financial limits might apply depending on your specific policy.
Finally, Section 5, Real-World Claim Examples. It is time to anchor all of these definitions and boundaries with some hard numbers, just to show exactly how this plays out in the real world when things go terribly wrong.
These direct claim examples from the Knight Family Agency prove the massive return on investment a renter's policy provides. Let's look at each of these like a mini story of a terrible day turned manageable. An apartment fire destroys all of a renter's belongings. It is completely devastating, but the policy results in a $35,000 payout to help them rebuild their life. Or a laptop stolen while you're just sitting at a coffee shop working remotely. Feels violating, right? But it results in a quick $1,200 payout for a replacement. Or imagine the absolute nightmare of a guest slipping on an icy step outside your door and suing you. Your liability coverage steps in to handle a terrifying $50,000 lawsuit that could have otherwise ruined you financially.
Take this number, $8,000. That's the exact amount paid out when a simple burst pipe rained down and ruined a renter's closet and desk. Think about that for a second. Imagine trying to rebuy your entire professional wardrobe and your electronics out of pocket today. Without insurance, that is an $8,000 out-of-pocket disaster. With insurance, it's turned into a mere inconvenience, completely softened by the payout.
And remember our chat about liability? $7,000. That was the medical bill payout after a renter's dog unfortunately bit a neighbor. Instead of the renter having to face potential bankruptcy or drain their entire life savings to cover the neighbor's hospital visit, the financial shock was entirely absorbed by the policy's liability shield.
And then there's this $800 payout for a bike stolen right out of the hallway of an apartment building. It reminds us that even everyday theft is heavily cushioned. You don't have to suffer a catastrophic fire to see the value of your policy. When a policy that costs maybe, $15 a month steps in to pay for an $800 bicycle, the value proposition becomes incredibly clear. Everyday life brings enough risks on its own.
So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to calculate in your head as we wrap up this explainer. Look around the room you're sitting in right now. If you lost absolutely everything you own today, every pair of shoes, every piece of tech, every single stick of furniture, what is the exact dollar amount it would cost to replace your life? Because once you start adding up that number and doing the mental math, you'll understand exactly why clarifying these boundaries, knowing what's covered and what's not, is absolutely crucial to protecting your financial future. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and stay curious.